CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Kam joins us now with the latest. Eric, great to see you this evening. Thanks for your time.
Good to be with you. Thanks so much, Akshay.
So, Eric, what is your sense on this looming deadline? We know that civilian infrastructure is already coming under attack in Iran, and the threats and counter threats are only getting more intense.
That's right. But we also have to remember what President Donald Trump and what the U.S. military is doing is actually a war crime. Now, we know that just 24 hours ago, an F-15 fighter jet was shot down. We know one pilot has reportedly been rescued. But I have been checking with many of my sources and everyone has been very tight-lipped. And considering that we're talking about an administration that leaks like a sieve, the fact that we are not hearing anything about the second pilot makes clear that the administration and the Pentagon are deeply, deeply worried, not only about the safety of this pilot, but if this pilot is actually captured by Iran, this only ratchets up the tensions and the escalation, and more importantly, the narrative for both sides. And we have to remember, President Donald Trump has been a master at narration throughout his political career. Iran has been able to match that since this war began. And I think that is why we're seeing President Donald Trump now escalating the tensions between the two nations, considering what is playing out. President Donald Trump gave this address just a few days ago, making clear that Iran has been decimated. But now Iran is saying they have shot down an F-15 fighter jet. Potentially a U.S. fighter pilot is now, his life is on the line in Iran. And whoever gets to that pilot first will certainly be able to change and shift the narrative. And I think Donald Trump is trying to get out in front of that before anything drastic happens.
That's right, Eric. A lot of concern with what's going on with that co-pilot over there. Meantime, let me ask you about, the talks itself, Eric. Any word at all on the state of these talks with Iran, with who is the United States really talking to in that country, or Pakistan continuing to play the mediator? What do we know?
And we know Pakistan has also enlisted the help of China. But clearly, what we're seeing right now, apparently nothing is happening, given the fact that President Donald Trump is escalating these tensions. And so everything is going to come down what happens in 48 hours on Monday. Now, we know it was just recently that Donald Trump gave another deadline that something would happen. And then, of course, we got Taco Trump. But again, what we're seeing right now is the United States and President Donald Trump is trying to change the narrative. The thinking was that the United States would get out of this war, but we have to remember the United States has moved an additional 10,000 troops into the region, and right now the United States has more than 50,000 troops in the Middle East right now, prepared to go. We know that they do have the readiness if they should decide to go into Karg Island to be able to engage in a ground offensive on the ground. And Donald Trump knows that, which is why I think he is making clear that this is something that could happen. But it's not just about what Donald Trump is saying could happen within 48 hours. We know also that President Trump is looking very closely at the markets, and we know that he will be watching those markets, and he will oftentimes do things that will impact the markets, which means to try to bring down those rising oil prices that will certainly have an impact not only across the globe, but more importantly here at home.
That's a good point indeed. And I'll make a slight pivot now, Eric, but it's still related to the war. We know that President Trump has been attacking allies and friends over the Strait of Hormuz. He's also sharpened his attack on NATO. And now Mark Rutte is coming down to meet with Trump and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth next week. What do you think really is at stake here, Eric, when it comes to NATO?
I think what we're seeing here is Mark Rutte is actually doing his diplomatic act, his two dance, to try to keep the United States continuing to actually escalate tensions. That's certainly going to happen, but to also try to make sure that the United States does not exit NATO. And of course, that is certainly not going to happen. We know it's enshrined into law that the United States cannot unilaterally exit without a vote from, or a majority vote from, the Senate or an act of Congress. But again, I think what is playing out is that Ruta is trying to maintain the status quo, and also try to ensure that President Donald Trump does not make this a two-front war where we're seeing the United States at war with Iran militarily and also at war with NATO diplomatically.
You bet. CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Kam. Thank you for this, Eric. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.